Your lips to God's ears, Melinda. I've never corrected my friend Melinda, but I'm not the president of the board. I'm executive director of the NRF Foundation, and I'm very proud, as a member of Melinda's board, to introduce John Heinzen. John brings 18 years of entertainment industry experience to the mobile space. He is currently principal at Bunny Graph Entertainment, a multi-platform digital content development and consultancy company formed in 2008. Interestingly, as I looked back and Googled Bunny Graph, I found out that the company was founded by his grandfather back in the day, I think following the Second World War, and it was a place where if you were a baby at that time, there's probably a picture of you somewhere in a scrapbook on a satin quilt with a little bunny, and this is where people went for their baby pictures. I also read that his grandfather closed the business the year John was born, and I hope he'll tell us what happened there. Bunny Graph creates comedy and music series formats for television, interactive, web platforms, and mobile, providing both branded digital programming and integrated marketing solutions through enhanced user experience. Previously, John served for 2 years as manager of primetime programming at the Fox Broadcasting Company and has worked in the television packaging and new media branded entertainment divisions of International Creative Management. He began his career in 1992 as a producer at KVOA in Tucson, Arizona, a hometown boy. John serves as co-chair of the Mobile Committee for the Producers Guild of America, New Media Council, has been an adjunct professor at California State University at Los Angeles. Additionally, he's contributing producer to Viva London Productions and the internet platform company 7Echo, originally from Chicago. John received his MFA in 1996 while a producing fellow at the American Film Institute, and in 1994 received a BFA from the School of Media Arts at the University of Arizona. He lives in Los Angeles with his wife, Lisa, and their 3 children. Please join me in welcoming John.
Good morning. Glad they used the short bio. That was very scary. Well, thank you very much for coming out early this morning. I'm very, very happy to be here. This is kind of an unusual audience for me. I'm much more used to speaking to television and wireless executives, so this is a really fun treat for me. I was very impressed yesterday with the presentations, and so again, I'm very excited to talk to you today about the scope of the work that I've been engaged in for the last 5 years within the mobile space. So the whole notion, talking about emerging platforms, a lot of these terms, maybe you've heard, maybe you haven't heard, but they're very relevant in terms of where the marketplace is today. So, very good advice I got from presentations yesterday. I have an agenda to keep everybody on track. So, we're going to talk about the mobile media landscape today, what it's like in terms of rich media. We're talking about video for mobile, okay? We're going to talk about the concept of transmedia. This is another term that's very popular now that's just taking shape that'll be very relevant to your business in the future. The role of technology in these kind of transactions. The new age of branded entertainment. That's another term that's very misconceived right now. We're going to talk about that. And then the new consumer experience, mobile as a marketing platform, and then the conversation with the consumer, mobile as a storytelling platform. Okay? So, we live in a world of new media and emerging platforms, right? Things are expanding exponentially all the time. We have the mobile space, which has been actively growing for 10, 15 years, but is still in its infancy. We have 3D TV that's now taking hold in many, many ways. We have interactive television, and we have the iPad, which is defined as a wireless device. Okay. So this is the most deadly slide I'm going to show you today. Basically, it's going to say that smartphone penetration is up to 28% of the US market, and that by third quarter 2011, it's going to match landline usage. This is very, very important because in terms of the device, this is going to become the center of the world. And actually, I just remembered, I'd like everyone to take out your device and put it on the table, because I want you to look at it and think about it while we're talking this morning, okay? Because it is very, very relevant. It is not just a phone, okay? Thank you. So now the mobile space, and the mobile infrastructure here in North America is a very complicated one. And we have a lot of history to shed away, which is one of the reasons why it's been so slow to mature. We live in a stage of walled gardens. The carriers, Sprint, Verizon, and whatnot, have a lock in terms of the content that flows through it. And because the wireless space is a narrow spectrum space, this is what's causing video to mature very slowly. Think of your phone as your laptop in 1995, when you would go to lunch, come back, and the video is still loading and all the buffering. This is what's up with the device today. So there's a bunch of new technologies, some that are just kind of hitting the airwaves now. You're hearing about 3G, Wi-Fi, WiMAX, LTE, and WTF. Figure out what that is, okay? I promised I wouldn't swear in front of Terry, so. Okay, so 4G is going to make the wireless device the same as your laptop. And once that happens, the content's going to flow, right? Okay. So now, we live in a world of innovation. So I have a question for you, right? Can you name one of the biggest new media advances of the 40s, which grew on a global scale, peaking in the 90s, and although in decline, still exists today? What do you think? Think it's TV? It is not TV. It is stereo view cards. Stereo view cards, okay? Pre-Edison in America, this was a billion-dollar global new media business. 3D stereo view cards. On the back, it is printed in 6 languages. There would be series of these cards that would tell a story. This is 1900. This card's from 1905. Imagine 50 years later, television. 50 years later, wireless. So for the young people that are here today, by the time they advance in their careers to get to the place that Terry is, not saying that's 50 years, but you know what we're talking about. Imagine what the marketplace is going to be like and how important technology is going to grow. And I said I would jump down. Please let all the young people look at this. Okay. And of course, it still exists today. And is now coming full circle with the advent of 3D television. Okay? Now, we're at a crossroads of media evolution. It's a very interesting thing. We've had this progression from the stereo view, there's the player and whatnot, to radio as a storytelling platform, to film, to TV, to computers, and now the wireless. But what's unique about this step in the process is that it's a convergence, that all the platforms are melding together, and that the content is going to flow from device to device. So now, we are also at a moment of confusion about the wireless space. But this is nothing new. In 1950s, television, they weren't sure if it was furniture or an appliance. This was a fundamental thing that people did not realize. They weren't sure what it was going to be. So in terms of the wireless devices, it's just a phone. That's my little baby. Or the ultimate communicator to all aspects of our culture. This whole notion of apps and everything else that's out there has just taken hold, right? There's over 120,000 iPhone apps. If you were to buy them all, it would be $150,000. It's just crazy and insane, right? Okay. So now we're at a time of great opportunity, okay? The mobile space is a new medium and not TV for your phone, by any means. Through mobile, the power of individual reach has never been greater. And this translates in terms of storytelling as well as the retail experience, okay? If you see that image there of Jackie Gleason, that's his famous character, Joe the Bartender. Who in the room remember Joe the Bartender? For those that don't remember Joe the Bartender, let me tell you that it was this classic sketch that Jackie Gleason had where the camera was the point of view of a bar patron, and he went through the saloon doors. And there's Jackie Gleason at the bar, pouring a drink to the same trained patron every time, and they would have a dialogue. You would never hear the person speak, he would never pick up the drink, and at the end the camera would back out. That was a one-on-one interaction between Jackie and the viewer at home. Jackie Gleason invented the mobile program. Remember, TV screens used to be this big, by the way. Okay? So now the mobile space has 4 primary roles in mass media today. Obviously, gaming and as an interactive platform very, very much has taken hold. A lot of the studios using different types of animation. It's a very vibrant space. Okay? Also as a production platform. This is an area that I'd been focusing in early in my 5 years in the mobile space. It is still very, very immature in terms of original content for mobile. There's a couple of different companies that are kind of like the distribution arms that will provide all the content for Verizon and Sprint and things of that nature. But to give you an idea of its infancy, a 22-minute sitcom on the Fox network costs $1.5 million. That translates to $67,000 per minute. The mobile space right now garnishes anywhere from $500 to $2,000 a minute in comparison. This is one of the problems of the space right now. Now, also mobile as a distribution platform. Those of you that have bought a DVD lately might have seen that there's a digital copy. So you could take a major movie and put the chip in your phone here and play it on the device. But in terms of a broadcast platform, it's still immature because of the narrow spectrum. This machine here is a kiosk in Taiwan where you can get movies to put in your phone to watch on the airplane. And this is a picture of the, basically an iPhone app terminal that's going to be coming out next year. Okay? So now, the content solution. So I hypothesize that one needs to apply the lessons of early TV to see where the mobile space is going, okay? And so if you think about TV in 1948, and this is very relevant to the business that you were in, you had Westinghouse and DuMont and players like that who were out there that were making the devices as well as providing the content. Well, what happened was eventually the FCC came in and dictated that they would become the networks. This is what happened. And once there was that standardization, there was monetization. This is something that is only happening now. The digital changeover took place last June 12th. The new head of the FCC was hired 10 days later. This is very much the work that's going on right at this time. In fact, the plan that the FCC used to switch from analog to digital was the exact same plan down to the market that they used in the 50s and 60s to go from black and white to color. The FCC is very predictable, and this is where we're at again. Now, from the side of the storyteller, a great example is The Lone Ranger, very successful radio program from 1933, that when the advent of television came, the producers, the storytellers, had to evolve their storytelling for the new medium. So think about it. Here they are doing a radio show in New York. Now they've got to go to California, they've got to get a film crew, and they've got to get a guy on a horse. And they've got to retain their audience. But if you watch an episode of The Lone Ranger, the one thing that didn't change were the scripts. If you turn away from the TV and listen, it's exactly the same as the radio show. And this is where the evolution became, because once the medium defined itself, 10 years between The Lone Ranger and the Beverly Hillbillies, the medium finally took hold. Okay? So now, what's happening and what the New World Order is really representing is this idea of the transmedia narrative. It's no longer a matter of, let's make a movie, then let's make a video game, whatever it's going to be. It's really now about the IP. And the intellectual property is going to be there, and then all these elements are just a part of the cost of doing business. You encapsulate everything and then allow the viewer, the consumer, to engage the product where they want, okay? And in many cases, what you do is you write a story that's never going to be told. You take elements out and you allow the consumer to finish the story, giving them ownership in it. Now, what's interesting from the branding perspective is that now the branding can live in all these different places and follow the consumer back and forth. Okay? Okay. So the mobile space is one of true convergence. Content will flow from device to device, allowing the consumer being the center of engagement. Storytellers and marketers will have free rein to convey their message and have the consumer, empowered by technology and enabled by social connectivity, to share that message around the world. Okay. So here's an example of one of the technologies. Many of you may be familiar with this. These are called QR codes. Has anybody seen these before? They're pretty standard. So what this is this is a highly pixelated code that's very much gotten a lot of penetration in the medical space, as well as like your boarding pass for the airline. So the way this works is you would take a picture of this code, and it would translate through the server, and then send you back the content, okay? Imagine a movie poster as an example, or an ad at a store. Let's say you have a Jacqueline Smith clothing line or whatnot, and now you have this code there. So now, imagine if it's at a bus stop, you've got Jacqueline Smith or whatnot, you take a picture of that code, and now you get a bunch of video content to go above and beyond what the poster already does. Then you can socially connect it to all of your friends. So the level of reach from that poster has now expanded thousands of fold, right? Okay. This is one technology that's out there, okay. Now later, when we go to break, I didn't have it ready now, but we actually have a live action that you guys can try. This is called a SnapTag solution. This is actually a little bit further along, maybe second generation in terms of code. It's where it actually takes your logo, your company logo, and enables it with a code, so that if you take a photograph with it and send it in, it'll return either links or direct video or whatnot. Anything you want them to have. Coupons, all the rest. Okay? So now, these codes are, like I said, going to be very much a part of the landscape, and there's different types of code there, different technologies in place. Again, your different marketing departments are going to be probably working with different vendors, and there's really no standardization yet as to what's going to be out there. But it's very clear, depending whether or not you have to download an app, or like with the Spiderlink tabs, not use an app, you're able to engage the consumer in a very direct way. And we're going to give examples of that later. Okay? Now here's an area that I'm very passionate about. I'm developing a great deal of content in this area. This is actually about GPS targeting, okay? So imagine baseball stadium that you can actually determine the level of mobile content the person will receive based on the ticket that they have. That you can use pre-existing satellites and layer in all the different levels, okay? And then once you enter that hotspot, it'll light up for you, okay? Imagine if you had the entrance to the store, the entrance to Macy's, and all of a sudden you have the Sunday Circular on your phone. And then it immediately tells you how to get to those different places. There's already some models being tested around the country in malls, where you just enter the mall and literally when you walk past the Gap, that thing you're looking for is going to pull you in. And eventually what it could very well become is that you put in your wish list, and as you walk through, they're going to know it, and they're going to engage you, and they're going to tell you what they have and what they have on sale. Okay? This is all very much the future within 10 years. Okay? All right, so now, now this is actually the whole notion of mobile production and social networking. So for instance, there's a company called Quick, and this is a version of, this is Kite, another company, where you can do live mobile streaming to the web. Again, being able to do things in store, to do things with consumers, and then have it put it socially out there on the web live. I was actually just at a United Nations event, and there was a woman that was doing work with camps in Haiti, and I showed her this technology, and she's already up online using her phone to show people what's going on in terms of call to action and things like that. It's amazing the power that technology has to allow people to engage. It can be used on all sorts of different levels. Very exciting time. Now, but here's the thing. It's a very exciting time, but here's the thing you have to think about technology. Technology is always in motion. You could have the hottest, greatest phone today, and it is still in its infancy. It is like Pong. Think of mobile space today as Pong. Really. It's really going to go that way. Trust me, okay? It's going to be 8-track. I got my Dolly Parton 8-track here. 8-track. This $600 phone and this 8-track are the same damn thing, okay? It will eventually get there, but today this is where it is at, okay? 8-track. And then, of course, your Space Command module there, right? Your space controller, okay? Really important to think about. Okay, now, the notion of branded entertainment. One of the problems that I find as a storyteller with the notion of branded entertainment today is that the brand is slapped on the property. And that is not what the new space is all about. It is not like the early age of TV where it's George Burns and Lucille Ball selling cigarettes and television sets. It is not the case. It is richer and deeper and provides a much greater level of engagement. Think about something like this, where the brand is impacted to the device, right? And the content and the experience to go with you. The device says something about you, right? If I've got my Beyonce phone, it's going to say something about me, and I don't know what the hell that is. All right? But that's okay. She's a very nice lady. I have no doubts. Okay? So again, the notion of branding, this is one of the things that you have, my advice to you would be that you need to be careful about. I'm going to pitch you a mobile show right now, just as an example of the branding I'm talking about. Terry and I are best friends from high school. We live in Chicago. We've grown up and we have our families. Every Friday night before we go home to those families, Terry and I go back into the bar we used to sneak into when we were underage and have one beer together. And that one beer that Terry and I share is going to keep us young forever. And that's the show. 3-minute show, 2 guys in a bar. Now the TV model of this is that you would produce the show, you would take it to the upfronts in New York, and the sales guys would look at it, and who's going to buy into the show? Coors or Amstel, right? Whatever it's going to be. But it doesn't work like that in the new space, in the new world order. What you have to do is go to the brands directly, to go to you directly, to go to the Kohl's directly. And you apply that language of advertising to the content at its root. This is very, very important, I feel, because then it's seamless branding. I was very lucky in 1995 to be at ICM, which is one of the big talent agencies, and Jeff Berg, their CEO, was very aggressive at that time, the notion of branding, as the cable audiences were taking over. And back then we represented companies like Gap and Starbucks, and looking at the television space, and getting the brands to invest in the development of new shows, not because everybody's going to wear a Gap sweater, but because their brand represented something deeper than that. And there was a story that could be told at a much deeper level. So I was very fortunate to be there at that time because now this is finally taking hold, now in the branded entertainment space. It's really, really a deeper thing. Because a show about two guys in a bar underwritten by Coors is very different than Amstel. The brands would certainly agree they're different, right? Or American Eagle and Urban Outfitters, right? They're very different brands. So you dig much deeper than that. You apply the language of advertising to the content development, okay? So now, mobile as a marketing platform. Ralph Lauren was Mobile Marketer of the Year last year. They're obviously aware of some of the codes and whatnot. I couldn't tell you necessarily what their retention was on these things, but they're out there trying to be aggressive to pull people in. But it goes beyond that. We're actually being conditioned now to use our devices in new and different ways. Look at how American Idol has taken hold with texting and SMS, right? Some films like Nacho Libre have done some very aggressive things. And now, just announced last week, Target is becoming very aggressive with mobile coupons. This very, very much is the future in terms of engagement. This is the world's remote control. This will go with you everywhere. If I leave the house with at least 2 of my 3 kids, I typically don't go back. If I forget my phone, I'm always going back, right? Okay? It's just the way it is. All right? And I have beautiful children, but that's not the point. There are companies out there like Docomo, which is a very successful Japanese company that is doing all sorts of things with e-commerce, where you swipe your phone at the grocery store and you use the phone to open the door to your house. All the amazing things they're doing will eventually make their way here. We have a very immature market here because of our history, okay? Our consumption history and our infrastructure history. You know, China's going to leap ahead of us in terms of this space, both for e-commerce and for content, because they don't have the infrastructure to shred away, right? This is something we have to overcome. Let me see. So Docomo, companies like this, are going to be bringing their technologies in, and it's the consumption model that's really going to dictate things. You can't say, oh, look at how the cell phone systems work in Korea or in England or whatnot. Your average young person in England spends about $135 a la carte on mobile stuff. Here in North America, we're on a family plan. And if the family makes the decision to upgrade their devices and to pay for that rich media plan for their phone, they may pay their $80, but if they get a bill for $85, they're pissed off, right? That's what it is. In South America, everything is prepay. So you're going to try to push content or push some sort of consumer play where they're going to have to purchase something after the fact. They don't want to do it. Very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. So again, there's a lot of challenges in place, but eventually I think it's going to standardize. And a lot of the standardization is going to come from the maturity of the devices, the maturity of the infrastructure, and the standardization from the FCC. Okay? Now, I'm going to pitch you guys something. This is a serialized branded mobile programming and retail experience. So I used to be a television executive. I'm a television producer. Why am I focused in the mobile space? Because of this kind of model. Taking away what I learned at ICM and understanding the importance of brands and programming and how it can drive e-commerce and everything else. So I'm going to pitch this to you. If anybody here has a brother-in-law at HBO, feel free to pass it along, okay? Entourage, great show, right? Successful show on HBO. It's a subscriber-based model, subscriber-based programming. So the pitch is that you have a character-driven storyline launched in the broadcast series. I will pitch you that storyline in a second. 15 3-minute episodes will be produced in principal photography to reduce costs. One of the problems with rich media is that it is always produced by the marketing people after the fact and not with the creative people in principal photography. If you make it the cost of doing business, it will always be cheaper, right? So this is one of the big problems the studios have right now with rich media, both for the web and for mobile, okay? So the episodes produced would be available exclusively on HBO Mobile via AT&T's AT&T subscription model. I think it's $5 a month to add HBO, okay? The mobile content would then be tied to a retail fashion brand, something that speaks well to the series and to the demographic. As an example, Calvin Klein, which might not be the right fit, but that's the one I could think of at 2 in the morning when I wrote this slide, okay? All right, so Entourage would then tie in with Calvin Klein, would be promoted heavily in their traditional print and on-air, drawing people in, pooling to the resources that are already in place, okay, and drawing people to the content. Then you'd have specially tagged Calvin Klein items, such as using a mobile code, QR or SnapTag, that would unlock additional mobile video content at the point of sale. You want to buy the clothes they're wearing on the show, you come down, now you're getting a payoff to what's already going on in the series, okay? Then what's great is Calvin Klein and their branding goes beyond the first-run syndication and lives with the show throughout syndication, DVD sales, and online viewing. So this, I feel, is going to prove to be a very productive space. It is something that the studios have not embraced yet. It is a very, very difficult thing, and a lot of the ad agencies as well have a very, very hard time with embracing this because we live in an environment now where they don't want to try anything new because they're afraid of putting the account at risk. Advertising and traditional media are worlds based in fear, okay? And the mobile space is a combination of three things: traditional media, branded advertising, and technology. And the reason why Bill Gates can get up here in his sweater and tell you his stuff is great is because his world is based in science, and therefore he has no fear, because if his science is good, his content is good. Why do they cancel TV shows after 2 episodes? Because they're worried the numbers are going to get worse, and I can assure you on paper that translates to big dollars. So again, this is what I feel is definitely going to be the future, and definitely the future that you guys can embrace, that you can go out there and say, we want to be out there in this space. Now the problem is that person that you would reach out to, because it really isn't the ad agency, that would connect with the studio, connect with the producers, and make these kind of collaborations happen, that position doesn't exist yet. And in 3 years, maybe I'll be in that position, but today it does not exist. Most people at Fox would tell you that BBDO is some sort of swine flu inoculation for your golden retriever. They do not know these two different worlds, okay? All right. Okay, so the conversation with the retail consumer, okay? Mobile technologies unlock information, right? They provide vital data, okay? They provide added value content. They create a conversation with the consumer, thus inviting them to be the center of the retail decision, right? You can provide anything, like I said in the case of rich media, you could have information about the shoe, you could add it to a Christmas list, whatever it could be, it'll flow through the device, because this is the center of your world. And so now at the point of sale, this becomes a very powerful tool, okay, that cannot be ignored, okay? Now, providing rich media engagement at the point of sale, brands can now directly connect their traditional advertising efforts to the retail experience. Just in the case of transmedia with content, on the advertising and branding side, all these new rich media extensions are just natural extensions of the traditional marketing and advertising. They are not some added thing. It should be part of the cost of doing business. Okay? And very often, mobile campaigns are done if there's money left over. I was talking to people at dinner about that last night. Okay? Okay. It is the new collaborations that are going to make the milestones in the mobile space. Every time I'm at some kind of event, I get different people together for dinner, and I'll have the Nike mobile guy and maybe somebody from Starcom and companies like that. And I say, if I'm the guy at Warner Brothers, if I'm the guy at Sprint, if I'm the guy at Macy's, can we all get in a room and make something happen? And they say yes. The problem is none of these people talk to each other. This is the big problem. You know, this is why I'm here today. I want to collaborate with all of you. That would be wonderful, right? This is really what it is, okay? The new collaborations, all right? Okay. So final thought on mobile, right? This new medium of content convergence is unique because it offers a true level of collaboration, traditional media, branded advertising, and technology. It really is a convergence of the three, okay? Know your audience, keep it simple. I'm sure many of you follow that because you're very successful. Know your audience, keep it simple. There's the baby now, okay? All right, so in the introduction, they mentioned a little bit my grandfather's company. So my company's called Bunnygraph. It's named after my grandfather's studio from 1928. That's a picture of him with his original patented Bunnygraph camera. They put the bunny over the camera, and the lens came out of the stomach, and the baby always looked at the camera. Know your audience, keep it simple. This worked for him for 50 years. 50 years this worked. Very successful. And so, as she said in the introduction, 2 weeks after I was born, he sold the business and became a grandpa, and that was great. And then 25 years later, I brought it back, because that's exactly what the mobile space is. Know your audience, keep it simple. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
Hi. I don't know how to quite articulate this. I'll try. I watch Project Runway a lot.
Uh-huh.
And I think there's some attempt to create some convergence there.
Yes.
But what's happened is that it's devolved into a product placement play.
That's right.
And it's, you know, and I know Macy's isn't involved anymore, so that's cool. But it's kind of boring, you know. I mean, you
Yes.
see them calling home, and the T-Mobile sidekick is prominently displayed on the back of their device, and be sure to use the bluefly.com wall liberally, and
That's right.
by mood. I mean, and it's not entertaining. Is the problem.
Absolutely
So
right.
how do you manage to do all the things you talk about and still keep it entertaining?
Well, like I said, I'm fighting a battle. I'm very much an evangelist. The work that I'm doing with the Producers Guild of America, which represents 4,000 producers in Hollywood from film to TV and new media, I've been evangelizing to the film and TV producers the whole notion of creating this rich media, integrating the brands, and not just slapping a label on the product. You know what I mean? It's a very, very hard thing. Very, very hard thing for them to understand. Very often the brand comes into the conversation late. That's part of the problem too. And again, like what I was saying about the notion of bringing the brand in from the very beginning. I love those Walmart ads that were yesterday. You know, the family on their family trip. Let's have a show about them, or let's, you know, not that I want a reality show about people in a van, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, who are these people? Dig deeper, right? Who is your audience? And let's speak to them. Let's tell them great stories. That's a really great way to move your message. So, does that answer your question?
Well, I just don't know how you keep it interesting. You know, I mean, it's not sudden, and so that becomes fun.
Well, again, it's not about slapping the label on there. You know, a show underwritten by Coors and Amstel are very different shows. Because the bar is different, their jobs are different, their wives are different. It's really about breaking it down with the brand, which is something they do all the time in advertising when they develop commercials. They never do it in television. I remember once we had a very big money deal with Ford for a show that we were doing, and it was a show set in England, and it was a girl from America who was learning how to drive, and she was going to learn to drive in the new Ford Focus. So here it is, we get the dailies back, and not only is the car black, but they filmed it at night. You couldn't even see the car. And they couldn't go back and reshoot it. And that was a very hard staff meeting that Thursday morning. So they just didn't get it. So again, this whole notion of a transmedia producer, it's actually a credit that was just agreed upon by the Producers Guild this week, which I guess is now what I am, a transmedia producer. So it's this idea of connecting the dots, understanding both sides of the equation, and trying to brainstorm different things. But the reality is it's a job that doesn't exist yet. Yes?
This morning I heard that Apple is launching iAd. Apple computers, I think this morning on NPR there was a story that to go more front and front with Google, they have just launched iAds, where you can do advertising on Apple phones. Any insight on that, or what's going to change on your mobile applications?
No, I mean, it's you know, there's a lot of ad networks out there that are trying to bundle their resources and whatnot. You know, the online space, if you think about it, the people that are out there creating content, all these web series you hear about, and even a lot of the studios and brands that are out there putting original content, are making no money. Why are they making no money? Because the web is the anti-TV model. There is no Super Bowl to make millions of dollars on, right? All that openness doesn't concentrate the eyeballs. That's why I don't produce web series. It's why I've focused on the mobile space, because the mobile space has a greater potential to be a programming platform. See what I mean? So that's one of the big problems. So in terms of the ads and the people buying in and whatnot, there's different models in place. I think they're trying to leverage the whole notion that people are going to the iPhone, they're going to the iPad, you know, things of that nature. I think they said like 60 or 70% of the iPad apps that are out there already are gaming apps, because that's the area that's really taking hold with that. So, you know, but they've been trying for a long time. And the people that have made money in the web space doing banner ads, you know, that's a whole other thing they're scared to give up as well. Very, very tough. Any other questions? Somebody in the back? Is that my mom? No.
Yes, my name is Mark Ray from the University of Arizona RCSC program.
Yes.
And the one thing that you did mention was that the FCC, if nothing, is predictable.
Yes.
And the huge difference that I see between normal television broadcast and the mobile environment is that the FCC has a relatively stringent set of guidelines of what they allow to be advertised and how it's advertised. Now,
Yes.
do you see that as eventually occurring with the mobile environment?
Absolutely, absolutely. All that physical airspace that the FCC has been administering is when they switched over June 12th, all that airspace are these spectrum auctions you're hearing about that are going to the cell phones. This is going to deliver the content. They're used to regulating this space. They're not giving it up. They're just letting the dust settle, and they're going to step in and standardize. It is literally Westinghouse to CBS. And they're preparing for it. If you drive around Tucson, if you drive around LA, if you drive around New York, and you look at a billboard, you could be in the worst part of town. The bottom of that billboard, odds are, there's a little shiny brand new sign that says CBS. Those billboards are part of the conglomerate Westinghouse had in the 40s that became CBS. It was just one of their properties. They've had it ever since, and it's made money for them. Reason that there's a new CBS sign on there is they're going to start beaming stuff to your phone via Bluetooth as you drive home every day. They own the platform, the technology's there, they're going to beam it right to you. Whether you want it or not, it's another story, right? Imagine being able to engage at ATMs, getting content to your phone securely at an ATM. What's really important with all this digital stuff is that it becomes extensions of your normal activity. Thinking about billing for them, think about your cell phone billing. You get a certain amount of, you get a package, you get some content free, nights and weekends, and then extra content has an added value. That's exactly how rich media is going to be. It's exactly how, we're being conditioned for all these different things. All that American Idol texting stuff, we're being conditioned. It's not Soylent Green, but it's kind of close. Any other questions?
Yeah, question over here.
Yes.
Right at the back here.
Good.
A two-part question.
Yes.
The first one is, and the background is, I think of technology as a means to do something, or at least to help it. So you had talked about the example of in Japan that use their phones to swipe, whether it's at the store or to get into their house. And it seems like a lot of the technologies you were showing are actually different, right? You have to take a picture of something in order to do whatever you're trying to do. Is there fundamentally a difference in how people want to use their phone in Japan relative to the US? So they were likelier to swipe over there, but here we're likelier to actually take a picture. So that's kind of the first part. And the second part is, are there other behaviors here in the US that people kind of want to do? And how should we think about mobile as a way to kind of make those behaviors easier?
Well, in Japan, like I said, it is very different here in the US. If you think about a typical Japanese household, there's only one computer in the household. Young people don't get computers till they're in college. The cell phone is their device. So that's the platform that they're reached at. And this is where they live. I've been doing some focus testing lately for a game show that I'm developing that actually has a cell phone component. And so I've been doing a lot of testing with high school kids and things of that nature. And amazingly so, and universally across the board, if they had to give things up, it would be TV, computer, phone. Phone they would give up last. And these are kids that don't have rich media devices. Once they have smartphones, they'll be consuming all this content, right? And it'll just be the standard of where these people can be reached. The fact that you sit at a terminal and type an email will be as antiquated to your grandchildren as it was for my grandfather to get milk from a goat in the front yard of the house. Okay? It's all going to be voice-driven. It's all going to be automatic. You're going to pull up to a parking meter, and the disposable income on your phone is going to pay the parking meter. You're going to dock your phone when you get into the car, and it's going to bring up real-time traffic and your destination map, and if you're going to be late, it's automatically going to send a communique. The Koreans are developing refrigerators that when you walk by the refrigerator every Wednesday, it Bluetooths your grocery list based on the items in your fridge. These are items that are in demo mode today. This is very much the culture of content that we're going to live in. Now, actually, when I was at the WiMAX conference, when they were showing about this refrigerator, I went up to Dr. Richard Lowe, who was the head of Nortel, and I said, so, Dr. Lowe, I'm a branded entertainment producer. If I'm going to create content, where in your roadmap is that content going to live? Will I be able to get branded content when you upload things to my grocery list? Will I be able to get coupons, things of that nature? He didn't know. The next week I had a meeting with his app developer. People are moving forward, they don't know. You'd be amazed. A lot of people out there faking it. I guess maybe even me a little bit, I don't know. But I do know what's been the past, and a lot of what I presented today is the past, and I think the past will dictate the future. So it's not really something you should be afraid of, it's something you should be excited about. Because even though entertainment and advertising are worlds of fear, you've got to be strong and not be afraid to run in the dark and not be afraid to hit the wall and just keep going. And I've been doing it for 5 years and I haven't gotten hurt yet, so thank you.